album, which I think is appropriate because the album they came out with this year is really good. Those are my 2 cents. I'll put the link here for us if anyone wants to click on it and see some of the noms. Boom.
Cool. Very interesting. I wonder if there's a, you know, a more worldwide or decentralized mechanism for recognizing musicians, awarding them. The Grammy seems to be very much a you know, it's a particular institution. It'd be interesting to see what the internet at large would do if they had this opportunity.
Agreed. I mean, I think there'll be a point in time where a lot of independent musicians could get recognition for the work that they do through the powers of how new technology and the ledger will work. That is for certain. Kayvon has an announcement.
Oh, talk to us, Kayvon.
Good morning. Thank you. I just wanted the team to be in the loop. We're moving the backend for RSong this weekend. Mm-hmm. From currently it's in Google Cloud under my account, and we're moving it to same infrastructure but under under our chain account. And in the past, every time I do any kind of DNS change, it seems some of the Android versions are having a hard time with the DNS related changes. They somehow cache it, and they still hit the old IP address rather than the new IP address. So there may be some interruption to some of the Android devices.
Okay, thank you for letting us know.
Yeah.
So is the simplest fix to uninstall and reinstall?
That is the simplest fix. I think we saw this so many times when we moved from the test to the production version of it. And there is a write-up in the RSong channel in Discord as to how we could do this. It's a uninstall. It is that, but in some cases they had to restart their phone as well.
Rudy, thanks for joining us. How's your health?
Rudy, your microphone is muted.
Sorry. Didn't realize I wasn't really there.
You doing all right?
Yeah, still waiting.
I understand.
Still waiting to hear the news, but I'm doing better off and on, pretty much. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. So
I was going to ask Kayvon, how's the migration been for the blog? Has it made its way over? Has it migrated?
You know, the migration has been completed. It's been completed since Tuesday. Actually, since last week for everything but the blog. The WordPress blog is just, I don't really know why we use it. I don't really know why anybody's using it. It is painful to move that stuff. It has so many internal dependencies and such. It's old PHP programs. To make the long story short, we have it, and after working on it for so long, Ian and I decided to go with what we have. In the current version, there is some limitation as far as the size of the videos and such that could be uploaded to WordPress. We have a solution. We just have to work with Derek to implement those solutions. Besides that, we just need to do a DNS change.
Yeah. All right.
And I talked to Derek also. It would be nice not to use WordPress. So down the line, once things settle down, we have a migration path to a different blogging platform called Ghost. It's a lot easier to move it around. It's a lot easier to work with as well.
Oh, good. That sounds like a promising direction.
Yeah, it's a really, really nice platform. It's got a nice team that works on it. It uses Nginx rather than Apache. A lot of the limitations that we have is with Apache. What we wanted to do was wrap everything in Docker images and deploy them in a stateless way. But WordPress just wasn't playing nice in this architecture. But it's done. I think Ian, he was up last night or this morning till 3 a.m. and it got done.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it's been taking a while. All right. Thank you.
Very.
You bet. As part of this, we moved rsong.org as well. So that one is there too.
Great.
Very good. That's all. Yeah. I mean, keeping the infrastructure up is, can often be a heroic act.
Well, I think you'd be very happy. The team will be very happy with this new infrastructure. It all runs in clusters, so it scales up. It backs itself up. If it goes down, it restarts itself. So it doesn't need much handholding.
It feels like a lot of the transition that we've done has actually been very, very good for our chain. It looks like a lot of the infrastructure became modernized, and we've ended up with a much better solution that's going to be a little bit more lasting. So I feel like this was actually a really, really important transformation. Even
the eye of the needle.
Yeah, exactly.
I totally agree. I mean, I've been involved in some projects, and this kind of stuff just bugs the team down when you have to spend so much time in deployment and provisioning and stuff. And if we could automate this, which in this case we have, it goes a long way as to being able to move quicker. Because in theory we should be in a position where we build once and deploy in any platform, regardless of where it is. And I feel like we're almost there.
I very much agree with that. So one thing I wanted to, I know you've been heads down on all of that, but we should talk again about search. It might be fun in this conversation to talk a little bit about search, because I think we're going to want to start getting more songs up. I know that Fabian is looking to put more material up and attract more artists to the RSong platform. But as soon as we do that, we're going to need the search feature. And I know that you and I have talked about sort of a bare bones minimal implementation. But
I totally agree.
But it might be fun in this context with these people to talk about search from the wider perspective. I'm curious as to how other people think about the experience of looking for content, especially songs and music. What they'd be interested in, what they'd like to see that would open things up.
Hey, Greg, I have a thought. I was actually woke up thinking about this. Since I don't know entirely what the plan is here for rolling anything out and what it will look like when it's rolled out, but I have an idea of what might work in the real world. It's just my opinion, of course, but looking at Live Nation and Ticketmaster, and seeing how they've sewn up so many venues because of their size, would be useful, I think, for us to look at positioning strategies vis-a-vis them. And the reason being that they're number one. And if you're not shooting for number one, I'm not sure what we'd be shooting for. So here's the deal. You find the weakness in their greatest strength. That's one of the weird techniques about positioning. What is their greatest strength? They have the power to sign someone that fast because they have the money, they have the place to put them, they have the infrastructure way bigger than everyone else. what are they missing when they do that? Well, they're missing all the probably people are performers are getting lost in the cracks. There are performers coming up all the time. There are new ones born every day. So, and same with venues. Venues open up, things become venues, buildings that weren't venues become venues, open fields become venues, festivals open. So I think that a complete package is a damn good idea rather than, I think it'd be a mistake to get stuck just talking about RSong sitting out there all by itself, because this actually, a music initiative could be the tail that wags the dog with regards to our chain.
Oh yeah, I very much agree with that.
And it would only be that if the offering is a wider offering. It won't be that if it's just streaming, or if it's just, if it's too much about data and too much about licensing and so forth. It has to have all that, obviously, but I think a complete package where you again, pigs in one end, sausage out the other. Sorry about that crudeness if anyone's a vegan here, but anyway, that's what I was thinking of. So the ticket situation with Ticketmaster, that helps drive what Live Nation is. Without it, they would be quite different.
Yeah, so I think part of what you're referring to is something that came up on a recent call that I had with the Crown, which has to do with just this online sales, even for streaming, are it's really astonishing how the transformation to the market. I know that the Crown released its album earlier this year on DistroKid, and we've hit all the major venues from Apple Music to YouTube Music, everything. And we literally, despite the fact that we've had thousands and thousands of listens all over the world, we haven't made a single sale.
Yeah.
And I think that's I remember 2 years ago reading Quincy Jones saying something similar, that the music sales in terms of recorded product is really fairly limited, and it's exceptionally top heavy. You got a very, very tiny percentage at the top that are actually making sales of recorded product or recorded material, and the vast majority of it is essentially accessed for free. And so the market has shifted to the live performance. So supporting that and becoming a part of that is very important if we're going to have musical offerings on the blockchain. That has to be a part of the story. That said, I think bringing it all the way back full circle, what RSong aims to do, and I think what our partners aim to do, is to provide a completely different audio experience, right? So I agree that with the existing fidelity of recorded material, and the other thing is, my son made this point last night. We were driving, and he was listening to music in the car, and he said, you don't have to worry about mixing and mastering anymore, because everybody listens on a terrible deck, right? And so
not all of us.
So hey, Greg, can I just ask a question about purchasing? Because I spend a lot of money on music, but I haven't bought anything for 10 years because I do everything through subscription. So are we missing the boat if we're focusing on the purchase as opposed to trying to get a subscription service going?
Oh, no.
I just want to add one thing, because I actually have absolutely no interest ever again of quote unquote owning any music, no matter if it's my favorite artist or what. because the reason I made that switch is I don't have to worry about anything as long as I align myself with a service that provides the most comprehensive and eclectic collection of music. And for that, I'm willing to pay a monthly fee of, I forget what I pay for Spotify. And I got to think a lot of people feel the same way.
Oh, I think the market has spoken very clearly on this point. RSong doesn't make a commitment one way or the other to subscription versus any other kind of model. That's an economic discussion that I really hope is going to take place with the artists as well as with listeners and as well as with regulators, right? That discussion is still something to be had, and RSong doesn't make a commitment to that and can support a wide range of economic models. But the thing that I was suggesting was slightly different, which is that I think the other piece of the puzzle is that the experience of recorded music is not as compelling to a lot of people, in part because there's a glut. Like I often joke that musicians can't play the Lysistrata strategy, right? I think if musicians, it's an interesting thought experiment, because when I've talked to different people, they have different answers. But if musicians stop producing music for the next 2 years, who would notice?
I thought I had a thing in mind.
That's what John Lennon said, right? When the Beatles broke up, he said, "I don't know why people are so upset, because they have our records to listen to." Mm. So we have a huge backlog of music we could all listen to for.
I would be personally devastated if even 5 of the producers that I listen to stop producing music. But I'm in a different category. So Ned, I used to be like you, but more on the end of like pirating or stealing music. Ever since I've gotten capital, I've been buying music. But I buy it because I'm a DJ, and I'll never listen to something over Spotify unless someone's just showing me something, because the fidelity is not as high quality. Like, I demand WAV files are higher.
I agree with you. I'm probably one of the few people I hear the anti-aliasing in many, especially of the older recordings that they've digitized. And yes, I agree. I find it somewhat annoying, but to me, all the other things outweigh.
Yeah, but you're also not a DJ, right? So, like, even in some of the hardcore DJs, like, they refuse to play anything but vinyl, right?
True,
so
true. Different category, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, it just depends. It depends on where you fall in the line. Like, if, like, a lot of people steal samples, right? But you're not really an authentic musician if you do that. So for the market that's like buying music or buying samples or paying for certain audio plugins, they're going to pay, and they're going to continue to pay because that's their life. But for everyone else, I think it's kind of just like a 1 or 0 thing. Like, you're either going to like steal or subscribe to music, or you're going to buy it, and that's it.
So I want to say I was here for Gator, for Napster, for all those services, and I always had a rule in my household that nobody steals music. And so my son never used those services. If I saw them on his computer, it was the only thing I policed his computer for. Now, there are other things maybe I should have, but so I have never been a proponent using BitTorrent or any of these services for stealing. And I think there's actually quite a bunch of people out there, remember David Bowie said, "I don't care if they use my samples as long as they pay me."
Mm-hmm. I was having a conversation over the last 2 weeks. I've been speaking to a friend of mine over at Ableton and another friend of mine over at Native Instruments around the concept of what the future of the decentralized blockchain-based DJ market is going to look like over the next few years. And again, going back to what happens when you have a sound library. Generally these days, a sound library is made available. You spend your $75 for it. The musicians that played on it never get any credit. They got paid maybe a session fee, end of story. But the hope is that in the future, through through mycelia or through Life ID that will be able to put everyone's identity into the track, into the loop, and that way those artists will actually start getting compensated. And this is a conversation that is cooking over at both of those organizations right now, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to position ourselves to be the solution for how those companies are able to tackle that arena. Additionally, I think something similar to that is going to emerge out of Beatport, and I think when that organization figures out how to do something that Spotify is working towards doing, which is here's a library that lives online. You can stream that library through your DJ rig, and you can DJ high fidelity sound if you're able to have a strong enough hardwired internet connection. That way you don't have a glitch for when you're streaming wave quality sound. I think all those things are going to be coming down the pipeline over the next few years. One for DJ culture, two for remix culture, three for the industry around loops. All these things are about to start changing, and I think people are starting to, and that conversation is happening now.
Cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Greg, I know at like in Berlin and a few times you've said you don't want RChain to become an RSong or a music company, but should that be revisited? I mean, what Rudy was talking about. I mean, there seems to be so many opportunities, and are we sitting on a potential gold mine with RSong?
Oh, we're definitely sitting on a gold mine. But it's one gold mine of literally thousands. It's absolutely the platform that we want to get out, and get the platform out in a way that. So, and I've been speaking to this. I was speaking openly about it since the spring of 2017. In the ultimately, we're aiming towards a series of technologies that commoditize the platform, so that literally, in the same way now that there are enough technologies that the commoditization of the the Web 2.0 marketplace kinds of applications, right? It really takes, it can be done by a very, very small staff inside a company now, or it can be outsourced, and people can just, stand these things up, in an afternoon. We're at the point now where our understanding of Casper and Ladle, and the base and the core execution mechanisms are such that we can contemplate being able to, with a very small spec, press a button and Casperize it and provide a type system, so that whether you're talking about some version of JavaScript, or you're talking about some version of Java, or you're talking about some version of a brand new programming language like Rolang, you input a small specification, you press a button, and you automatically get a blockchain-based execution environment that has an automatically generated type system. So all of that is in the cards. At which point, that layer of the platform is completely commoditized. Nobody has to worry about that piece of the puzzle. The thing where the real value is all up in the dApps and above that, and to the communities that use those dApps. But for now, what we have to do is to roll out the network effects, because it's mostly about making sure that you have a supportive community and the validation network in place, right? So that is in my opinion where we need to focus. Now, I think Daryl might argue that if we do the community creation through music, that might be the best way to go. But my sense is that RSong, while it's a gold mine, it's just one aspect of a lot of platform application.
Well, Greg, since we're here, I mean, it's not mutually exclusive. We don't have to talk about other things we could be doing over there. We can talk about what we're doing here. And the main weakness I see in some of these conversations is we're constantly talking about how we're going to satisfy fellow geeks and nerds, and that's cool. It's kind of like when people buy cars and they're really good drivers and they know how the cars work, but there are other people who buy the same cars because they look cool or they say something about their status or whatever. So I really think that making what we're doing here accessible and understandable to a wider market, including bands, musicians, including the general public, and including nerds and geeks and propeller heads or whatever we want to call them, is good. You don't have to get rid of any of them. And furthermore, the number of genres that get brought into this somehow should be wide, because it's a wide world. And I mean, I honestly think we can be not everything to everyone, but a whole lot more of everything to a lot more people.
Well, I mean, that said, I wonder if I could get back to the question I asked, which is that, you know, I still believe that the best movement forward for RSong and for RChain working with RSong is to bring more material onto RSong. So in particular, to start courting particular trailblazer artists who want to start delivering material. I think this is absolutely mission critical for RSong, because it will bring the right kind of attention to what we're doing. And so it ends up being both a marketing effort as well as beginning to do the right kind of feature development and the right kind of legal pipeline and onboarding pipeline and all of that. So from my point of view, we let the artists drive. So we want to bring more artists. But as soon as we bring more artists onto the platform, one of the things that I think we're going to need to do, just as a response to the kind of attention that we will garner, is we need people to be able to find that material. So let's say that in the next 2 months, we have 2,000 songs on RSong. Scrolling through 2,000 songs to find what you want is not going to be a pleasant experience. So, yes. So what would be the kind of search experience that people would want?
I fully agree with that. I mean, looking at the Resonate website, when I was looking at artists or players on there, it was hard to know who was who and what was the difference between someone who plays in an art gallery once every 6 months or who's actually doing gigs. You don't know. So there has to be some way to set this up on a website or something having to do with search where you can cross-reference all the things that someone does. I agree. YouTube is a good example.
Rune has a discovery page because they know all the metadata behind your music catalog that you have and the things that are related to it that tell you, like, released on this day 20 years ago, or here's a collaboration between 2 of the artists in your library, and et cetera. And it's very fabulous, and they've done great proof of work. So I'd recommend Rune to everybody to see how this can be done in a real world situation. And they're built on top of Tidal, so the audio quality is outstanding as well.
I missed the name, Steve. Who did you say?
Rune, ROON.
Oh, okay.
RuneLabs.com. It's super worthwhile, and Enno Vandermeer is an ally who's the CEO of the thing. So
yeah, so I mean, like Kayvon and I discussed, you know, like at a minimum, we want to be able to search in terms of song titles or song names. We want to be able to search in terms of artists. I know that some people would like to be able to search in terms of genre. I confess that I have long wanted to search in terms of things that are objective, right? I do not believe that genres are objective. I do understand the value of the discussion or discourse that, you know, for genre classification. I know that that's something that can promote engagement over content. But I always wanted to do things that are objective. So what are some examples of objective things that are detectable with a minimal amount of analysis of the audio content?
Well, how are you defining objective? I'm a little confused with that one.
Yeah, so beats per minute is objective. Nobody's going to disagree about the beats per minute of a particular recording.
Right.
And that can be calculated via minimal audio analysis of the audio content. Key, it turns out, is something that's objective. You know, when a group of musicians are playing in a particular key, and it turns out very recently there's been some very good work by a researcher at MIT, which allows for the analysis of audio content to determine the key.
I wish I had that about 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, exactly. Instrumentation is objective. Either the recording has brass on it or it doesn't. You know, either the recording has synthesizers or it doesn't.
Right.
These are all objective things, and it's fascinating to me that, you know, we've had. I mean, we have a rich, profound musical culture, right? I mean, the training that musicians receive either in the pop industry or in the classical industry is pretty deep, and yet, you know, there isn't this kind of objective discussion that makes its way over into the audience. But you would think that a DJ would want this kind of information. I want to go, you know, I need, like, I'm trying to build an arc, so I need to go from 180 beats per minute to 220 beats per minute to, you know, 300 beats per minute at the peak, and then hit it immediately with something chill, so very, very low beats per minute. That would be a series of queries that a DJ might want to make of a content service, content delivery service that would help them craft their mix, right? Is that making sense?
Well, Greg, it does make sense. I don't think these things have to be mutually exclusive. For instance, I like old country. I really do. I grew up with this stuff. So hearing old Buck Owens or old stuff like that, I don't really have to go into beats per minute to find that guy. And in fact, I probably couldn't find him that way very easily, or at least it would take forever to find him that way. So I don't see why you couldn't do both. And also, I would say that your method of doing it appeals to a certain kind of person, and that person is not, their tastes are not global.
If I may, this might be, I mean, I think there is a lot of overlap between search and recommendation. And what Greg is explaining could definitely fit into a really cool recommendation system.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I do agree with that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Kayvon. And I'm not suggesting that any of this is mutually exclusive. I'm just trying to widen the scope of the discussion. I mean, like, how many of us wandered, you know, like, this dates all of us, right? But how many of us wandered into Tower Music and, we found something by accident, or we found something in the bin next to the bin we were looking for, or, you know, we bumped into someone who said, oh, well, if you like that, you might like this. Those kinds of experiences. And the interesting thing about these kinds of objective searches is that they can create those similar kinds of synchronicities, right? When if you're looking for other things that happen to be in the key of F sharp minor at 160 beats per minute with some brass and some African drums in it, that actually will show up a lot of stuff that you might not have expected.
Yeah, I'm raising my hand on Tower Music, 48th and Broadway, if anybody was over there. but I have to say, I bought a lot of crapola also.
Of course, sure.
And you know, lately my big searches have been piano concertos, violin concertos, Liszt, Anis, something in French that I love.
Mm.
I have given up on recommendations from any of the curators, whether on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere actually, because to me, it's all just rehash crap. And I want to just see stuff kind of in the broad categories, and then I will wade through them and I will pick. So for me, that's what search needs to be. I need to be able to say, you know, and maybe this goes to the beats per minute because you know sometimes I do like to listen to house music. Electronic, dance, progressive, dark, or whatever. So I'll put those kind of things in. And still, I do not trust what they give me. I listen for the 30 seconds kind of in the middle of the tune to make my decision if I'm going to spend time listening to it. Now, I don't know how many people in a mass marketing situation are going to take that kind of time, or do they really just want like the curated playlist from some, you know, DJ or curator that they follow?
Yeah, I mean the other no, I absolutely. To me, this area is fascinating and rife for very interesting innovation. For example, what are my friends listening to? Right. What are my favorite artists listening to right now? I can't tell you how much music I found by going to the liner notes and you know, of albums that I bought and said, oh, let's see, Quincy Jones produced this and produced this and he produced this. Let me go see what else Quincy Jones has been involved in.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Yeah, absolutely.
So Greg, at the moment, how does an artist put music on RSong? Right, because if it's just through the our chain organization, that's a massive bottleneck. Like if I had to send 50 emails to artists and then let's say 5 get back to me, they say, okay, cool product, let me see it. Okay, I like it. Let's say one wants to put their song on it. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like how does music on RSong? How does music get on RSong?
I think there's going to be a process in the future, depending on what we decide RSong is going to be.
Uh-huh.
Remember, the intention has never been that RSong is going to be a new streaming platform. The idea was that here we're able to demonstrate that this technology exists, that we're able to put, you know, unique audio content onto it, and we're able to stream it through our tech. You know, my personal hope, which I'm working on the plan right now, and it's almost done, and the hope is that 20 to 30 artists that are big within the independent space we will arrange a deal to license their tracks in exchange for some compensation, be that in the form of a fiat, but more likely in the form of rock or rev. And we will need to figure out financially how things work once we get a market of users to actually get onto the platform. You know, I think the first thing is, can we get an agreement from 30 top tier independent artists that will, number one, agree to giving us a song of theirs, number two, agree to marketing and promoting it through their various social media channels, three, can we create a strong enough strategic marketing push, that way it all happens around mainnet, that way we could see how that will affect the you know, the greater good of our chain and our platform. So I think before we walk down the path of 2,000 songs, first, if we could prove the case with 30 and see where we're at that point, and additionally see where Resonate or other people that are in the business of launching a streaming platform are at, and how they could utilize what we've got here, is really going to be the you know, where we need to land. At least those are my 2 cents or my thoughts around that.
So I'm kind of getting a sense, Fabian, that maybe we need to revisit that we should become a streaming platform, and it will give us revenue potentially, and it could also not need to be mutually exclusive and increase platform awareness of our chain in general. But at the same time, let's not give away the shop with the potential to have a really cool product that we kind of own.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we decided, if the co-op decided that it wanted to go into that business, and this is a property that our chain owns, we should definitely walk down that path. But again, recognizing the sensitivities from the community, the co-op community around this specific technology, and the commentaries that have come out around us trying to be a streaming platform, which has never been the intention at all. I think ultimately, remember, this technology was brought on board for us to be able to bring on to Resonate.
Yeah, but that's why we have leadership, because the community isn't always right, and sometimes leadership needs to direct. And if we're sitting on this potential gold mine with a asset that we actually already have developed and own, I would not vote to just give it to Resonate. I mean, for a number of reasons, but
no, we would never, ever going to give anything away.
Yeah, no, I get that. But if this has the potential, and we could do some cool things and blaze new trails with search and artificial intelligence or somehow, and build that on our platform, it seems to me like that's a big win-win for our chain.
Yep. I hear you, man. I hear you. Considering that we have this, and a lot of other people within the space are trying to figure out how to build what it is that we already have in our pocket.
Exactly.
So I mean, one of the things that I wanted to respond to in Fabian's proposal is to add an additional category. So for independent artists that have a following of a particular size, let's say 250,000 followers, or an audience of at least 250,000 or greater. They have existing material that people like and are happy to hear, but they can get that on Spotify or Pandora or whatever the streaming service is. One of the things that we have in our back pocket is we have this other capability, right? Which is the immersive mixing and the immersive recording. So there's a way in which the immersive technology can attract the artist currently, because nobody else is prepared to. Nobody else has a platform for this. There's no other platform in the world that can demonstrate this right now. But we can demonstrate this, and we could have these kinds of artists release, and we've already shown the willingness of artists to do that, and we've already demonstrated with lots and lots of engagement over the summer and the early fall of artists responding to the technology and telling us without a doubt that they would like to get get material out on top of this in this immersive setting. So I think we need to think about not just existing catalog, but I think we really need to focus on new material. And the reason for focusing on new material is an economic one as much as it is to showcase the platform, and that is because since there's no other place for an artist to be able to point their audience to in order to hear this immersive experience, by force to get the material into the hands of their listeners, they have to point them at RSong.
Well, Greg, I have a question. I may have been sound asleep during some of these meetings, so I'm going over all this stuff. But I think it is. I think it would be nice to know what it is we're trying to be here. You mentioned something about marketing, and we always need marketing, and marketing's kind of a sucking thing where you put something up and draw people in, but you need the blowing thing, which is sales. So if you're going to find people, and you're going to find them quickly, and powerfully and bring them in, you have to have someone tasked with getting them, and not just say we're going to build this and then everyone will notice it, because they won't. And not only that, they'll be confused by it. So I think it's probably not a bad idea, and I'm not sure why we wouldn't just start now saying what this beast is going to be, not just as RSong, but as, you know, what other capabilities it would have, whether it's search, booking, touring, whatever the hell it is. What we were talking about at the beginning of Resonate, which never got done. I would think something like that would be a good idea, and make it understandable to the general public as well as musicians and to ourselves. We can market to ourselves all fucking day, and that won't do any good. But we have to satisfy ourselves, and we'll do that, I'm pretty sure. But I think getting the message out is really the trick, because honestly, the difference between everyone else and Live Nation and Ticketmaster is vast, and that's because they have so much power and so much infrastructure built in. I think it's good to try to take advantage of what they're missing.
Yeah, I agree, Rudy, 100%. I think, and you know, we don't have to be single-threaded. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. So we could be building the platform, and we could be promoting RSong, you know, different efforts, different parts of the organization. And then, you know, Rudy, we had talked even about, you know, some really cool uses of the platform, like the whole coin drop thing that Chris developed, right? You know, you sell a big venue, and while people are at a concert, you drop coin, good for the redemption of a song by that artist, right? I mean, there's so much we can do using our tech as it, you know, as it's envisioned today to drive, you know, this other asset that we're holding right now, which is RSong. I mean,
yeah, no, I absolutely, I agree 100%. But this is why I'm trying to do the Tai Chi or Jiu-Jitsu approach, where we're making the smallest amount of efforts to get the most the most impact across a range of different opportunities, right? So RSong is intended to drive the platform, while at the same time making some clear value propositions that are independent of the platform. But that said, you know, from my point of view, the artists are the drivers, and I think engaging the artists is where we need to be. And I want to engage artists personally. The way I would want to do it is to engage artists that are pioneers, right? So an example of a pioneering artist is Todd Rundgren, right? So he was at the forefront of technology, as well as at the forefront of you know, his own artistic vision. So those kinds of artists are risk takers. And you know, they're excited about the possibilities that technology can bring. Another example of a pioneering artist is, of course, Imogen Heap, who's done a lot with the blockchain in the past, and will continue, and is basically all in on the blockchain currently. But I think we have to cultivate those kinds of artists and bring them into a mix of independent artists like the ones that Fabian has identified. And then I also think that from an economic point of view, we have to spread things out. So again, we get into this mode where we think about what we can offer the artist that they can't get anywhere else. So they can get crypto tokens anywhere, right? If Bruce Springsteen lends his support to EOS, you can better believe that EOS will give him tokens for that, right?
If they're around.
If they're around. But something that's really that right now no artist can get is a platform in which to launch their immersive content for their fans.
No, that doesn't exist. We're the only ones that can actually do that.
We're the only ones that can actually do that right now, today.
Yep.
Okay. And so if I mean, we haven't talked to Bruce Springsteen. We haven't spoken to the boss at all. Assuming that we could get Bruce Springsteen on the phone, if he said, and he had a chance to come into, our studios and record with the immersive microphone, or to take some new material and mix it in this immersive setting, and then get it out there. There's only one place he can point his fans to, and that's RSong, right? So I believe that we have two things to offer Bruce, right? One is this new recording and mixing experience and a way to deliver it to his audience, and two, a fair compensation model that he gets to drive, that he gets to craft with us. So those two things alone, I think, are just a killer offering. And so then we don't have to, potentially, we wouldn't have to pay Bruce anything, right? It would be a kind of nice quid pro quo. All we're asking him to do is to tell his audience to go find the material here on RSong. That's it.
Yeah. Another one could be Billy Joel, because of the ups and downs in his career. He's always trying to reinvent himself when he gets clean. And regardless of his other personal issues, his following, I mean, they're diehard Billy Joel like fans. And
you're absolutely right. There's a wide range of profiles of artists that are willing to look at new platforms in which to reach their audience.
Yes.
Right? And I think what's important here is to dovetail. What do we actually have that we can deliver right now, that the artist wants, and that's not necessarily about the exchange of cash or the exchange of tokens or whatever it is. And I'm hoping that we're starting, that part of what this community conversation is about is jump starting that mindset, right? Getting back to a non or more like a barter economy.
Yeah, at least the start. No, I'm all in, right? So Fabian, I don't know what I can do to help you, but this to me is exciting again, about actual implementations of our chain.
Yep. Well, the proposal will be circulating before the holidays. It's a bit of a beast. So I've been doing a lot of work on it and trying to play around with formulas and numbers for how this could financially work.
Yeah, well, let me help you with that.
Okay, we'll get into it, Ned.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. So there's one other piece of the puzzle. We've only got like 5 minutes left, but there's one other piece of the puzzle that I think is kind of important, especially in terms of our longer term goals. So, I mentioned this last time, and we've had Ilan on a few times here on the call, and that's the whole vibe chain thing. I believe that part of search and recommendation, which Ilan rightly said, we're next door neighbors to each other, is this playlist idea, right? And I like what vibe chain is thinking, where it's really just a soft or easy introduction to coordinated expression of wish, right? So you have a group of like-minded individuals who want to put together, a more extended musical experience, like a playlist for a party, right? And they need to decide what tunes get in, what tunes should maybe go to the front, and what tunes should go to the back, or to even provide in real time feedback, right? It's like, oh no, the mood of the party shifted. We need to shift the playlist a little bit, right? So all of that is actually about social coordination, and in this case, it's starting to be social coordination supported by and in a musical context. So I think that those are features that, like if Vibe Chain were to build out those kinds of features, if they were folded into an RSong setting, that would differentiate RSong considerably. It would make it again more of the kind of experience that an artist would want to deliver their fans into, or their audience into. Does that make sense? Are people following what I'm saying?
I totally agree. I think the possibilities there are endless, and one would totally be in the big party situation. And I don't know if you've heard anything of their interactions with Hello Friend, if that ever went anywhere.
Elon and I didn't talk about that. We have talked extensively about their ability to use the RSong platform to implement their stuff, but I didn't hear about their interactions with Hello Friend yet.
Yeah. But even in addition, from a personal listening, or just a small group of friends listening, I think there are so many, that could be the killer app, right? You get, it's like people play these, games, on, 6 people, and they play on their phones together, right? But, you're sitting around at a party, a small gathering, 5, 6, 10 people. And, you could just, people as they're drinking or doing whatever, and they're updating the playlist. And, you don't have to designate, the lowest ranking member of the group to, flip the vinyl record anymore. But that could be a really cool killer app, or really drive consumerism. So I think we have so many different levels on this that we can attack, from the micro to the macro.
Yeah, it really just depends on how deep we want to go.
Right. And funds to create everything.
Mm-hmm. And funds, yes.
Which Christian, Greg, and I will be working on next week in San Francisco at this investor crypto conference.
That's
great.
Great. Very good. All right. Well, we've got to jump over to the staff meeting.
Yes.
But thanks everyone. It was a spirited conversation as usual.
Bye-bye.